Exactly 30 minutes past the top of the hour, dawn has broken and we are bang on time to keep you abreast with what is happening in Kenya and beyond. Speaking of Kenya, just you and I might be looking at paying the 2.5 billion the government is still owing to maize millers, and this came out yesterday whilst the millers were appearing before the Agricultural Parliamentary Committee, where it turned out that only 1.7 is what has been paid so far. This is out of the 4 billion that was supposed to be paid to the maize millers. Now, between that time that it was paid on 15th August and now, an interest of about 269 million has been accrued, which brings the amount to 2.5. The ripple effect of this might just be looking at something like we might not be seeing so much of the maize flour in our shelves, that is in the supermarkets as well as the shops, if this money is not paid. This also is coming at a time where the government is looking into importation of maize, sugar, and rice. So much so to be speaking in this time where we are still reeling with issues of food insecurity in the country. Nonetheless, later on the program, we'll look at oceanography. Yes, this is a branch of science that looks into the properties of marine and sea life. And so we look at just how has been the uptake of women into fields such as this one, oceanography, marine, sea life, as well as science. That comes your way from 8 a.m. I speak to Dr. Susan, who will be taking us through that and so much more. Beautiful morning to you. Always a pleasure to have you on board. This is Good Morning Kenya. Welcome to the program.
It is the 15th of March 2023, and we are glad that you found time to join us this fine Wednesday morning. And as Dorina said, thank you so much for choosing KBC Channel 1. This is the best way to kickstart your morning right here. Good morning, Kenya. Good morning, world. We are live from the broadcasting house here in Nairobi, Kenya. We are also live on our website and on our social media handles. Ensure that you engage with us even as we proceed with our conversation. We shall highlight our handles in a bit. But in a lineup for you today, we have women at the forefront. We shall be discussing matters concerning what women are doing to motivate, empower, and inspire other women. Some say that women are their own weaknesses, that they are their own fault lines. Well, today we shall be demystifying what other women are doing to empower women across the world, especially in the world of business. I shall be with Mary Muturi, who is the CEO of Jambolist, together with the president of Jambolist from, she shall be joining us all the way from the United States of America. That is Sarah Munyeri, as we talk about matters concerning women at the forefront. My name is Ram Aguko. Thank you for choosing KBC Channel 1. This is Good Morning Kenya.
Indeed, the 15th of March 2023, and you're just in time for comprehensive news coverage as well as those candid conversations around current matters. I'm Regina Manyara. I'm going to be bringing you up to speed with what has been trending in as far as matters sports, business, as well as politics, and especially security at a time that the government has intensified security operations to secure the north. Good morning, I'm Regina Manyara, and this is in the headlines on KBC Channel 1. Now we start off with bilateral ties. President William Ruto says the government will urgently resume the construction of Aurora and Kimorer as well as Itare Dam projects that were shelved by the previous regime. Speaking after holding bilateral meetings with President Sergio Mattarella of Italy at State House, Nairobi, the head of state said Kenya and Italy governments had agreed to facilitate the withdrawal of cases challenging the legality of the procurement processes following preliminary stages of the projects.
President William Ruto and his Italian counterpart Sergio Mattarella struck a deal that will see the multi-billion shillings Aurora, Kimorer and Itare Dams project revived 3 years after they were cancelled over fraudulent claims.
I am happy to report to the nation that the government of Kenya and the government of Italy have agreed And in fact, the process of sorting out the matters in court has already started in earnest.
During bilateral talks held in State House, Nairobi, the two heads of states agreed to cooperate to iron out obstacles hindering progress of the projects, including withdrawal of court cases by 3 Italian firms demanding 11 billion shillings for the cancellation of the projects.
We intend to clear the court issues in the next 1 month and be able to start the process of negotiating the restructuring of financing, and hopefully we should be able to go on with the construction of these dams in a matter of months. We have agreed that the restart of this projects is not only urgent, it is priority, it is necessary.
Italian President Sergio Mattarella committed to providing over 13 billion shillings in loans and grants to aid Kenya in the implementation of various projects within the agriculture, health, creative economy and digital superhighway sectors.
Hopefully Nairobi can have some rain today, but of course the drought that you have been witnessing in the region in recent years is something alarming. Kenya and Italy share the same awareness, and we wish to urge the international community to proceed swiftly in taking all the decisions needed to curb the atmosphere's pollution, and so that we can deal with climate change in an effective way.
The talks between the two leaders also centered around revamping ties between Kenya and Italy through trade and investment opportunities and promoting the development of key sectors such as water, agriculture and tourism.
We have signed an MOU through which our two countries shall cooperate in the fields of health towards the realization of universal health coverage and improved pharmaceutical production. We have also signed an MOU on bilateral consultations that will be established and set guidelines for the conduct of political consultations at the respective ministries of foreign affairs.
We very much appreciated the crucial role played by you, Mr. President, your government, the role that Kenya as a whole has played in Ethiopia, so that we could solve the dramatic confrontation between the Ethiopian government and the Tigray region.
During his 4-day tour of the country, President Sergio Mattarella will also hold a public lecture on climate change at the University of Nairobi. Ben Chumba.
That is indeed a welcome relief, especially to the beneficiaries of following the construction or the go-ahead of the construction of the said dams. Now extended the vacate notice. In a statement by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, person Roslyn Odede says the time given is not sufficient to ensure that all civilians from the troubled areas in the north are fully evacuated. These schools in the gazetted areas of security operation in Baringo County have closed down for fear of being caught in the crossfire. Timothy Kipnusu has an update.
Following a directive by Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki for locals living in gazetted areas of operation in Baringo County, schools in the area have closed down for fear of being caught in the crossfire. Kapindasum Primary School in Baringo South closed down Tuesday, and pupils escorted by Kenya Police Reservists out of the school.
Kama serikali haitafanya vile walisema, hakuna budi, sioni kama wazazi watakubali tena watoto warejelee aswa shule ile ya ngambo ile ya Kapindasum, manake mara kwa mara hawa bandits wanapitanga hapo wakiona.
Locals raised fears that after the directive, the bandits moved from their hideouts of Korkoron Hills, coming closer to where they live, raising tension.
Sisi ni wa Kenya kama wengine. Sasa kama wajangili wanaua serikali wenye wako na personnel, sembuse sisi wananchi yenye hatuna kila kitu.
This as Kenya Defence Forces continue to move in the areas of Chemorongion, Arabal, Mukutan and Kambidasum.
Tunataka hawa kore wajangili wasionekane. Mwisho ni Mukutani. Hapo tuone hawa hapo. Lakini kwamba unapo yote hata kwa mtoni. Isionekane kabisa.
But as the second phase of security operations gains momentum and the expiry of the 14th March vacate notice deadline, The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights now says the time given is still not enough. According to the commission, a humanitarian crisis is in the offing, owing to the limited time given for civilians to vacate the marked areas.
Hakuna kitu tunafanya saa hizi ni kutoroka tu. Kwa sababu jana hakuna mmoja alikuwa ameishi jana hapa. Naona hakuna mbuzi yeyote nyingi hapa. Watu wametoka jana. Hatujui bwana yuko sahi. Hatujui hata kidogo.
In a statement to newsrooms, KNCHR noted that most of the areas identified and dubbed as crime scenes are civilians' places of residence, and that vacate order will affect many people.
Even some children are not, we are not aware whether they are alive, wherever they are. People are searching for their children.
Is still underway. Now onto the political scene. Opposition Chief Raila Odinga has declined overtures by the National Council of Churches to have him postpone the planned March 20th mass demonstration to allow for dialogue. Among the issues that the opposition is pushing for is the immediate check on the high cost of living and suspension of recruitment of IEBC commissioners.
Opposition Chief Raila Odinga led his Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party Brigade to his home county of Siaya as he continues with his public engagements ahead of the planned mass demonstration on 20th of March next week.
Na tumetoka Kuangala kule Bahari Hindi, tumekuja hadi Ziwa Victoria kwa Jaramogi. Umetukaribisha? Umetukaribisha? Na tuko hapa sababu hawa wazee waanzilishi wa taifa letu walipigania uhuru wetu ndio tukawa Kenya huru.
It is here that the opposition chief revealed the ongoing behind the scenes attempts to have him postpone the mass demonstration, but Raila maintains the demonstrations will go on as planned.
Tumemwambia Bwana Ruto asitishe mambo ya unilateral ile anafanya sasa kuteua mambo ya IEBC. Sababu IEBC ikipoteza imani ya Wakenya, si 2027 tutakuwa na shida. Hakutakuwa haja tena tupige kura with a compromised IEBC.
The Azimio leaders have urged his supporters to be steadfast. The opposition chief is however calling on his supporters to remain peaceful.
Sisi si watu wa fujo, sisi ni watu wa kufuata haki. Sisi ni watu wa amani. Tutaenda vile katiba imeturuhusu kwenda kwa njia ya amani. Na mwananchi hana nguvu za fujo. Those who have a monopoly of violence is the state agencies.
Well, that particular story there forms the conversation, especially on social media, trending on various platforms, including Twitter, with the majority of Kenyans just chiming in and giving their views in regard to what they think about the planned mass demonstrations there. You can also be part of this conversation and tell us what do you think about the planned 20th March, the mass demonstrations led there by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance. And the conversation has been around that the leader, that is Raila Odinga of this particular alliance, has made, or rather has declared March 20th a public holiday. The question is it gazetted? Does he have the powers to declare such a day, or rather make such utterances, given that we already know what the law says when it comes to declaration of public holidays? Our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1. My Twitter handle is at Ray Manyara. What do you think about what is coming off from those particular utterances by Raila Odinga, leader of the official opposition? Now, the Ministry of Water is looking into partnering with the private sector to seek investments to bridge the financial gaps being experienced. Now, this comes ahead of the United Nations Water Conference that is aimed at finding sustainable solutions into the water crisis that is currently ongoing.
As the world heads towards marking World Water Day on 23rd March 2023, with this year's theme being accelerating change to solve the water and sanitation crisis. The focus has turned on the importance of fresh water and advocating for the sustainable management of the important resource. Speaking at a pre-conference meeting between the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, United Nations and the private sector, Ministry of Water and Sanitation Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome said there is huge financing gaps, hence the need to seek collaborations from different partners globally.
In terms of funding, we have financing gaps. And when you ask me how much, I'll tell you I need 100 billion between now and to do basically. But holistically, we will require 200 to 300 billion shillings per year.
She said the country currently needs an average of 300 billion shillings per year to solve the water crisis and implement short-term solutions. She further added that to achieve water accessibility for every household across the country by the year 2030, much more needs to have been raised.
To do that, we need a minimum of 900 billion shillings for both short-term, medium-term.
The official cited that the State Department for Water and Irrigation needs to leverage on available funding to plan the water piping in different dams, rehabilitate water ponds, and rehabilitate water catchment areas in order to help boost food security within the country.
How can we then leverage on the funding that will be available so that we then become focused and targeted?
The ministry is, however, looking for long-term strategies as they seek for more funds, noting that these investments will help boost food production, increase water access, and even help foster peace in areas where people fight over the commodity.
Water is a natural resource, but it is clear that more funds needs to be invested to ensure that it is fully utilized.
That is our very own Tess Mutai, the quite passionate about matters of environment and climate change reporting. Now we head to Parliament, where the National Assembly Public Debt and Privatisation Committee has maintained that the 10 trillion shillings debt ceiling passed by Parliament should not be exceeded in the next budget. While presenting its report on the medium-term debt management strategy, committee members argued that the country should only borrow up to 585 billion shillings. The 587 billion shillings window than what was proposed in the budget policy statement that proposes borrowing up to 720 billion shillings. The committee's report, which is also proposing a 50-50 domestic and borrowing on grounds that external borrowing has lower interest rates, elicited varied reactions among the legislators.
Proposed in the current budget is done at the end of this year, June, which is now the current year. We'll have only a window of borrowing of, Honorable Speaker, 587 billion. When you look at the BPS, Honorable Speaker, the proposal is to borrow in total 720 billion, Honorable Speaker. So there's a gap of about 120 billion, which will be above the ceiling. And we are saying, Honorable Speaker, this House must stick to our already passed ceiling.
But again, we have been given further facts that if we were to go the debt anchor direction, where we want to borrow as a percentage of the GDP, we have already exceeded, because the authorities are proposing that we borrow 55% of GDP. But the statistics given by this committee is such that we have already borrowed 67% of GDP. So that is something that this House needs to look into in depth.
There are very many MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies that have different accounts, and they have a lot of money there. But when you ask the country in the CFS, how much money do we have? We don't have money, and yet each ministry, each MDA has some money there lying out there. It is not being used.
the financial year is over, there is money being held in all these many MDAs, totaling to hundreds of billions of dollars. But what happens to that money? We go and look for fresh money and come and put in here. They will not use the money again. We will still have a debt we have accrued. At the end of the, again, on the other hand, we have interest we are paying on. We are saying, let's have one treasury account.
The same report says that borrowing domestically is not good because, one, there are higher interest rates, there is a shorter maturity period, there is a higher portion of debt servicing cost within the total, the total amount of debt. But at the same time says, no, for external debt is even worse because there is a risk, it's risky because of the exchange rate risk. So I'm wondering, you are saying both of them are bad, then why borrow?
I can see Kenyans already jumping onto the bandwagon in regard to the 20th of March 2023. We're going to be sampling some of your views as we continue with this particular broadcast. What do you think about the declaration by the official opposition party leader Raila Odinga there that 20th March is a public holiday and that the mass demonstration scheduled is still on course? We'll be keeping tabs on that. Now let's look at what has been making headlines in the counties where over 545 nurses in Busia County have issued a 4-day strike notice to the county government over delayed payments and unfulfilled promotion promises. Speaking after a consultative meeting with the health officials in the county, the Kenya National Union of Nurses Busia branch chair David Busolo cited lack of communication as the main reason why they decided to address the issue publicly.
The union has decried non-payment of salaries for some members, timely payment and harmonization of allowances, promotion and redesignation of deserving members. According to KNU and Busia Branch Secretary General James Opodo, the delayed payments have inconvenienced workers who cannot meet their financial responsibilities and fend for their families.
Tulielewana na county government mishahara ya wafanyakazi itakuwa ikilipwa kabla ya 5th. Kabla tarehe 5 ya kila mwezi tutakuwa wafanyakazi wanalipwa mshahara wao. Lakini kitu ambacho hakifurahishi, mshahara huu umecheleweshwa pasipo communication ama kuwasiliana nasi kuona ni kwa nini labda mshahara inachelewa.
Meanwhile, wrangles continue to be experienced in the leadership of the Methodist Church of Kenya, with the now Kaga MCK Synod being the recent to demand the resignation of presiding Bishop Joseph Mtombura.
He was supposed to vacate office immediately after the meeting. Sadly, the above was not observed, but instead, Reverend Joseph Mtombura Mwaine subsequently went ahead to illegally and unprocedurally extend his term of office through unclear, dubious and misguided procedure very early in the morning.
Elsewhere, students and teachers have been urged to put more emphasis on technology as a way of preparing the nation for modern challenges. Speaking at the 2023 Science Congress exhibition in Nairobi, the national chairperson of the annual Innovation Fair, Margaret Njaga, acknowledged that this year's presentations have gone a notch higher with a great deal in robotics. At the same time, a group of students from Masinde Muliro University of Science and Technology in Kakamega has started an initiative to provide lunch to learners from low-income families with the intention of improving their health and education.
So this feeding program, it's going to support those people who always come to school empty stomach, not because they wish to, but because of the harsh conditions back at home. So such a feeding program will prevent such kids who are susceptible and vulnerable. It will prevent them from being malnourished.
Finally, Lake Region Economic Bloc counties will fast-track the implementation of the railway system, solar power energy, and drone technology in the health sector during the 11th summit held at Migori County.
We have a very ambitious project to bring the counties together through a railway system, working with the India Railway Corporation. We also have plans to have solar power production so that we can get access to affordable and cheap energy. These are some of the things we are going to discuss during this summit.
Now from the counties, now living in a clean environment and accessing constant supply of fresh water in their home seems so basic, yet can be easily taken for granted. These basics, however, are rare commodities for residents of Mukuru kwa Njenga slum in Nairobi, who have to grapple with waterborne diseases. Now, our reporter Opicho Chemtai visited the area and filed the following report under the climate-centric segment.
Mukuru kwa Njenga, one of the largest and densely populated slums in Kenya. From afar, everything looks normal until you move close, and then the harsh reality dawns. In here, an open sewer line flowing right at your doorstep has been normalized. Mounds of garbage litter literally every open space. Snacking its way in the informal settlement is a river whose polluted nature does not deter women from doing laundry and fetching its water for other domestic uses because clean water is hard to come by here. So how do the residents cope with this situation? Nekesa, a mother of 4, has lived here for close to 10 years.
Kijiji ni chafu, watoto wanahara, wakienda shule, mtu anakuja kama anahara. Unampeleka hosi, unapata dawa, tena kisha anaanza tena mwingine, anaanza kuhara.
She laments that the situation has worsened over the years.
Na hii maji yetu kama imepita kwa sewage. Ni pipe mingi zimepita kwa sewage chini. Sasa ni kama hiyo maji haiki dawa, wanaleta kama wamekea watu direct.
She faults the government for not paying attention to their plight, but is hopeful that something can be done.
Serikali tusaidie juu, tunaumia, watoto wanateseka, wanahara.
At a nearby health facility that Nekesa frequents, a community clinical officer gives grim health indicators.
We have upper respiratory tract infection, we have diarrhea, we have urinary tract infection, na pia tuko na skin infection.
She tells us what the predisposing factors are.
Hygiene is poor in the community because there is poor drainage in the community, and most of them to get the safe water is a challenge.
A medical emergency they encountered some time back caused panic as they frantically sought help elsewhere.
And we were locating the place of residence, and we get like in a certain area there were many people coming for malaria which were positive and they had not traveled.
The breeding will be, for those that caught malaria, will be more where you have bodies of water.
Community volunteer workers also have a rough time.
Mahali maji ya kukunywa inapitia ndio hiyo drainage inapitia. So hao kuhara, it is 100% na kutapika.
They say the buck stops with the government.
The Ministry of Health could have maybe come in. They take an opportunity to come to the ground.
Watengeneze hizo mambo na drainage zikienda, sio ya maji ya kusimama.
The Nairobi County government has taken some steps, but more needs to be done.
So we are trying to complement to have portable sewer lines, a sewer discharge. We are trying to ensure that we have at least better water systems into the slums.
Environmentalists and health experts warn of a looming crisis if measures are not taken to address the situation.
The vegetables that you actually consume might be coming from this particular area.
Unborn babies are thrown into the river. Dead carcasses of animals are thrown into the river.
If it continues spreading towards the big cities in Africa, then it could start transmitting malaria in this.
This polluted river has contributed immensely to the health risks that residents living in informal settlements are going through simply because it is the same source of water that they are using for domestic purposes. The Kenyan Constitution 2010, Chapter 4, Articles 42, 69 and 70 on the Environment Act clearly state that every Kenyan has a right to a clean and healthy environment and to have obligations relating to the environment fulfilled. Furthermore, Article 70 stipulates that if the right is denied, one may apply to a court for redress. Opicho Chemtai for Climate Centric.
that is going to be airing weekly, looking at inroads that are being made to secure Earth, the environment, in light of matters of climate change. So be sure every Tuesday to tune in to Prime Edition. On that note, we take a quick breather. We'll be back with what has been making headlines in the business circles as well as the sporting arena. Don't go away.
Learning is it's something that we do every day. Don't stop, don't quit. You can still pursue other dreams, but don't let go of whatever it is that you really want to do, because that is what gives you fulfillment. And I'm speaking this for myself, because today I feel totally fulfilled as a woman. I have learned a lot. I have had challenges. I am still questioning. I am still learning. But I walk every day with a smile on my face, because what I am doing is so fulfilling. So every woman out there, go do it.
Reggae music rocking my bone. Kingston City. It's the people's heartbeat. Moving one day at a time. Atunaga pressure. Tukisababisha. We live in one day. Can't settle down until me get my collie to burn. The nerves can't settle down. What's the hurry now? What's the rush? Take some time out, burn some kush. Like to shut up, you're always on the go-go. You see my run. Hey, them are no action, back at them, not them a run.
Sasa smahana moyo.
Haya mambo madogo madogo haya ndio ilimfanya tukampoteza ndugu wetu.
Aki Kibet. Usirudi nyumbani tafadhali.
Shafsun wala dile. Ulishukul kaawatna.
Tuko na solid intelligence inasema Burhan ako alive na anapanga his last attack. Atatumia Wajia border post kuingia Kenya. Na huko ndio tunaenda.
Good morning. You are still watching In the Headlines on KBC Channel 1. Now from the stroke of midnight yesternight or early in the wee hours of this morning, fuel prices shot up by 2 shillings. I'm talking about the cost of super petrol, whose price went up by 2 shillings across all counties, trading at 179 and a few cents in Nairobi. That's according to the latest fuel price review. On the other hand, you can now access 3,000 government services online, with the government now focusing on adding 2,000 services by the end of June this year. Information, Communication and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo says digitization of government services is geared towards enhancing efficiency in service delivery as well as supporting innovation and uptake of technology.
Government is set to introduce a digital identity card to aid Kenyans access all key services. To bring this to fruition, the government began an ambitious exercise to onboard all its government services. The target was to automate 5,000 government services by June this year. So far, you can access 3,000 government services on eCitizen.
When we started off about 1.5 months ago, we were only at a meager 350 government services.
Owalo says in order to increase access of government services online, plans are on to roll out 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots and 1,450 digital hubs, mainly in areas with low or poor internet coverage. This emerged during the launch of the 260 million shillings Phase 2 of the Economic Innovation Partnership Program implemented by the Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency and the Konza Technopolis Development Authority.
We have the Konza Technopolis as a whole, but now we're currently more focusing on the infrastructure, whereas Stage 2 and Stage 3 will be more about getting the high-tech industries and the facilities and the software programs embedded.
This is a partnership where it's a grand cooperation model between Kenya and Korea.
The 2-year project will also include the establishment of a startup ecosystem at Konza Technopolis, development of smart logistics, as well as development of the Konza-Nairobi corridor transport network.
Now, cotton farmers cooperatives are setting up ginneries in efforts to increase value addition and price per kilo of lint by at least 20%. Lake Kenyatta Farmers Cooperative Society's chair, Joseph Masharia, says with renewed enthusiasm from farmers for GMO cotton variety, the processed output could make it easier to be purchased by ginneries, driving up farmer earnings.
The price per kilo of cotton is currently at 52 shillings. A decade ago, the price had declined to a single-digit figure, demotivating farmers to ditch the cash crop, which inherently affected the textile industry. Farmers at the coastal counties have now embraced the GMO cotton variety due to its resilience to high temperatures and low demand of water.
Tunanuia pengine baada ya miezi miwili mitatu tunataka kufungua kiwanda chetu pale katika godown zetu ambazo tutakuwa tunajini pamba. Tunaagizia mashini kidogo, tutakuwa tunajini ile pamba yetu hapo.
Farmers here want to increase the acreage under GMO cotton.
Ichukue hiyo mbegu, ilete karibu na mkulima, waweke hata kama ni stocks zao hapo, ili mkulima hata kuna mwingine ako na pesa zake, hata ngojea pengine serikali imsaidie. Yeye atakwenda pale na anunue na aweze kupanda.
They believe with more collaboration from associated stakeholders, farmers will be more empowered, eventually adding to the output they produce.
Mpaka sasa production exceed 2 million. Hii mbegu inazaa vizuri, inastahimili huo mdudu.
They say the Kenyan textile industry could be fully sustained by farmers if the correct measures and policy shifts are taken into consideration.
Najua kuna industries nyingi ambao wameventure katika mambo ya cotton. Ni vizuri sauti yetu iweze kusikika ili tunapoingia mwaka huu katika kilimo cha pamba, kuwe wakati wa kuuza kuwe na competition.
Now, millers were hard-pressed to explain why they supplied maize flour after the subsidy maize flour program elapsed, accruing 2.5 billion shillings that they are owed. The National Assembly's Agriculture Committee wondered why the motive of the millers in extending the maize flour subsidy program, despite a letter from the Ministry of Agriculture stopping the program.
A very important point here. You occasioned expenditure without authority from the ministry.
Yes. No,
that is why we have a pending bill. The ministry has seen there is no exchequer release. Stop. then instead of stopping, you extend by the days of the contract. You, in your imagination, the contract runs. The contract does not run when the ministry can stop immediately.
When the association agreed that they agreed with the government that this is the process of the subsidy, they communicated to the millers. The millers didn't come the same day to sign the contract. Every miller was coming during his time. So if you came, for example, on 19th, you signed the contract. If I come on the 20th, I signed the contract. But the contract was running for 1 month. So your month, every miller, the month was sending, the day when actually after you signed.
Now that the millers had the contract up to 20th, 19th, the other one's 18th, and this one now the cabinet secretary has communicated to the PS. Did this information go to the millers?
Yeah. Important to have this clause that says that the millers shall not be held accountable for retail prices.
We're requesting you, honourables, to actually request the government. The sooner we can sort out, the better we become than sitting as we are, because we are suffering as a business. The interest is not very critical, but the business itself is very critical. So I mean, we need to sort out.
When it comes to matters of maize are close to the heart of many Kenyans at a time when the government has promised that come April, then the prices of unga, that is ugali, will come down, given that now they have allowed few importation of duty-free maize flour. We'll be keeping tabs on that in as far as matters business are concerned. Now we delve into the sporting arena, where Lawrence Okuta, Sami Kadenge, Edwin Okongo and Crispin Ochanda have qualified for the semi-finals of the KDF Boxing Championship 2023 after winning their respective quarter-final bouts yesterday. Meanwhile, national women boxing team Heat Squad will leave the country today for India ahead of the World Championship to begin on the 15th in New Delhi.
The Kenya national women boxing team Heat Squad will travel to India tomorrow for the 2023 Women World Championship, set to be held from the 15th to 26th of this month in New Delhi. The traveling contingent has Christian Ongare, who will fight in the minimum weight, Anne Wanjiru fighting in the light flyweight, Veronica Mbithe in the flyweight, Amina Matha in bantamweight, and Pauline Chege in featherweight. Others in the team are Stacia Yoma, Teresia Wanjiru, Friza Anyango, Lona Kusa, Elizabeth Akinyi, and will be captained by Elizabeth Andiego. Meanwhile, Lawrence Okuta, Sami Kadenge, Edwin Okongo and Crispin Ochanda have qualified for the semi-finals of the KDF Boxing Championship 2023. Lawrence Okuta defeated Isaac Mikwabe in the 75 kilograms middleweight quarterfinal. Sami Kadenge was better than Alphonse Kamau, while Edwin Okongo knocked out Victor Mwalili.
This is a 3-day event. Tomorrow we go to semis and then finals on Thursday. We have a list of prizes for the best winners, also trophies for the teams and also for the individual players.
In the special contest heavyweight 80 kilograms category, Crispin Ochanda knocked out Kevin Onyango. In the featherweight 57 kilograms category, Dennis Mwendwa downed Hassan Omar. Finally, Father Ben Kariuki of the Catholic Diocese of Nakuru emerged the overall winner of this year's Larry Timmons Memorial Golf Tournament at the Njoro Country Club after garnering 42 Stableford points. Coming second was Father Bethel Maura of the Nakuru Diocese, who carded 39 points at the event that was sponsored by Passes Insurance. Handicap 16 Esther Karunga was the lady winner after bagging 41 points. Virginia Jenga emerged second with 40 points in the same category. 61 Catholic clergymen and laymen drawn from various parts of the country participated in the tournament. The tournament is held in memory of Irish missionaries brother Larry Timmons, who was shot dead by a former police officer after robbers broke into his home at St. Francis Secondary School in Lare on the night of January 29, 1997.
Now, before we call it quits here, and as far as matters in news are concerned, is that updates indicate that Morocco have replaced Ukraine in the joint bid to host the 2030 World Cup alongside Spain and Portugal. So which country will carry the day, given that how Morocco has been performing in its international games, so to speak, and also might just be, an African country right there in as far as geo placement is concerned. We might be rooting for Morocco, but I don't know which way it is going to go. But they have replaced Ukraine in the joint bid to host the 2030 World Cup. Talking about soccer, let's look at the results as far as the Champions League is concerned. We had a match yesterday, and Manchester City scored 7 goals, or rather made 7 goals against 0 by RB Leipzig. RB Leipzig had no response to Manchester City's 7 goals there in a match that was played yesterday. On the other hand, FC Porto and Inter ended their game at a 0-0 draw, so to speak. Some of the matches we're expecting today, and as far as the Champions League is concerned, Napoli is going to be squaring it out with Frankfurt at 11 p.m., while Real Madrid is going to be taking on Liverpool at the same time. And as far as the EPL is concerned, we have Southampton squaring it out with Brentford at 10:30 p.m., while Brighton is going to be taking on Crystal Palace at the same time. So you get to pick your choice on exactly which team you're going to be supporting, either for the Champions League or for the EPL. In as much as Arsenal continues priding itself at being at top of the table, well, let's see how it goes. The rest we leave to fight another day, eh? Now, this morning we're asking you about what you think about what happened yesterday during the opposition rally, so to speak, there, where Raila Odinga, the leader of the Azimio One Kenya Alliance, maintained that demonstrations set for 20th March are still on, despite, back-end negotiations, including the church leaders asking him to ease up on the demonstrations. He went further and declared in the name of the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Alliance that Monday, the 20th of March, will be a public holiday. Well, within the law, he has no power, actually. No individual has the power to declare a public holiday. It has to be done through a government official and gazetted officially. But then this has caused a lot of discourse on mainstream media as well as social media in regard to what people are saying about the 20th of March. If you're on Twitter, and I'm sampling some of your views in not too long, get tweeting. Our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1, at Rama Guko, and at Doreen Arange, as well as at Ray Manyara. And this is quite interesting, because I'd want to sample just a few of your views in regard to March 20th. March 20th is among the trends already online. And this one is quite curious because it highlights that it's not just Kenya that is going to be up to something on the 20th of March. It indicates that South Africa is also going to be doing actually what they're calling the national shutdown. And I'd want to read this that from let's see. I think I've misplaced. Okay, fine. This is Sisifiti Evaluator. Says on the 20th of March is a planned national shutdown in South Africa, which will be led by the Economic Freedom Fighters, that is EFF, that will be joined by unions, companies, ordinary citizens, and others. And in Kenya, on the same day, the 20th, there's also going to be a mass protest. It will be busy in Africa, just indicating that, the social media platforms have made the globe indeed a village where one person can be reacting to what is happening all the way across the other side of the continent. So what is going to be happening on the 20th of March here in the country? You're going to have demonstrations led by the opposition there, calling for a reduction in the cost of living, and in South Africa the opposition there leading the national shutdown on the same day. Black Pride says the 20th of March could be very interesting if this does indeed materialize. And as KBC Channel 1, as a national broadcaster, we're here to inform you on all that is making headlines within our borders and also across borders. That puts a cap on matters in the headlines. Our website remains open to your perusal. That is www.kbc.co.ke. But in as much as we're done with the dailies, with the news, let's have a sample of what the scribes have captured this morning in our various dailies. To you, Ram.
All right, and we're taking a look at our papers on this particular Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning. Regina has mentioned Monday being declared a public holiday by Raila Odinga, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that pans out. All right, Cindy Doreen.
That's why you think it's a Monday. It's a Monday.
So we are taking a look at the papers. I have the Standard newspaper and the Star newspaper. Let me start with the Standard, and Doreen will be picking up on
the Daily Nation.
The Daily Nation.
Daily, definitely.
All right. So on the front page of the Standard newspaper, did Uhuru team pay 6 billion Kenya shillings for air in telecom deal?
Quite interesting.
Quite interesting, is it, Doreen, there?
It is.
Did Uhuru team pay 6 billion Kenya shillings for air in the telecom deal? In spite of money having been paid under the emergency cover, Office of the Attorney General says that it has not received the shares and does not even know who the money was paid to. Very interesting debate that is being held in regards to this particular matter. I shall be reading that in a bit. But still on the front page of the People Daily, what was covered by Regina earlier on and our news team is the conversation between our two leaders here, including here we're talking about the President William Ruto together with the Italian President Sergio Mattarella concerning the return of Aror and Kimwarer Dam projects. That is on the front page of the People Daily, where we have an image picture there where we have President William Ruto engaging with President Sergio Mattarella of Italy at State House in Nairobi yesterday. Also on the front page, defiant Raila declares Monday a public holiday. What is that all about? Opposition leader says the March 20th march is unstoppable and asked supporters to turn out in large numbers. He said that the government must heed to their call. What is that all about? We shall be taking a look at that in a bit. On the front page of the Star, Ruto Owalo raid Raila base as ODM readies for demos. Opposition chief Raila Odinga in crisis as his key supporters continue decamping to the ruling party, that is none other than UDA. Some of the Nyanza leaders who have defected to UDA include Evans Kidero, former Nairobi governor, Jack Ranguma, former Busia governor, Okoth Obado, former Migori governor, Omondi Anyanga, the former Nyatike member of parliament, Nicholas Gumbe, former Rarieda MP, John Pesa, former Migori MP, Martin Ogindo, former Rangwe member of parliament. We have Sylvans Osele, the former Kabondo Kasipul member of parliament. We have Fred Outa, former Kisumu senator, Odoyo Owidi, the LBDA chairman. These are some of the Nyanza leaders who have defected to UDA. Is Raila losing or is he winning? We shall be taking a look at that in a bit. But that is what is on the front page of the Star and the Standard. Doreen.
Good question you asked there. Is he winning or losing? And I just want to pick it up basically also from what Ray did mention and also what I've seen has been covered on both the Star and the Standard, and equally that is featured on the Daily Nation and I believe also on the People Daily. It's because of basically what is going to be happening on Monday, and this is just going by what the Daily Nation has captured inside Raila's plan to scuttle IEBC process. Now, and then before we go to about basically how Monday will be looking like with this, the mega rally as how Azimio is terming it, we are looking at perhaps what some are terming, is it a perfect coincidence in the African continent as far as March
20th is concerned. This is because similar rallies are being planned in Tunisia, South Africa, and Nigeria. In Tunisia specifically, this is because of the president's dissolving parliament. This is why the opposition is looking into this rally, because of that single action by the president. In South Africa is because of the continued blackout. This has taken place since 2008. So we're talking about 15 years where South Africa has been on a series of power outages, which will even go to up to 5 days, 6 days, or even 2 weeks. And so now the opposition, led by Julius Malema, are saying that they cannot take this anymore, given the fact that South Africa is one of those biggest economies in the African continent. And so these power outages, it's just been too much, and it's taking a toll on the country's economy. This is why they'll be going for that demonstrations. In Nigeria, it's because of the elections. They were concluded. INEC says, that is the electoral board in Nigeria, they say that the elections was done in a free and fair manner, but the one who came second with about slightly above 6 million votes, that is Atiku Abubakar, says that it was not done in a fair manner. And this is why they too, in March 20th, will be going for this rallies. They're actually being termed as protest rallies against the ruling regime. In Kenya specifically, it's about 14 issues, but 3 key main ones are coming to the fore. Issues of cost of living, the 2022 polls as far as opening of the servers is concerned, and also the IEBC selection panel. In fact, what the Daily Nation is covering for you is largely due to the IEBC process. You remember the already selection panel has already been appointed, and this is due to the different institutions that were tasked to give names. Already they did that, and again the names have already been gazetted, and also the persons, 7 of them already sworn in. So it is all systems go as far as the recruitment process of IEBC commissioners is set to commence. And this is largely also what the Azimio Front is decrying about. Over time, they've constantly talked about how the state is looking into putting their own persons. But again, remember the IEBC Amendment Act of 2022? Already been passed by both houses of parliament, the National Assembly as well as the Senate. So the biggest question has also been, so then why didn't Azimio float their own persons when it came to the Political Liaison Committee or the Parliamentary Service Commission, which actually is supposed to give 2 names, and this was basically each side of the political divide, but they did not give any name. So there's really has been a lot of concerns and questionings around these protest rallies and, as they would call it, mass actions. It's really going to be an interesting time in the African continent come next Monday.
Let me mention something about what you said. Next Monday.
Yeah.
20th
Monday.
of March.
Yes.
Did you know, from wherever you're watching us from, that March 20th is actually the UN International Day of Happiness?
I'm not so sure if you'll be happy, because the issues that the African countries are decrying about on this March 20th, I mean, it's really key issues. And you see, political pundits or governance experts are saying that perhaps it's time we need to look at the governing of the African bloc, different countries in the African continent, because you really can't be having over time the opposition side in different parts of the African countries always decrying of the same issues. Take a case in point of South Africa, like electricity issues. And when you come down to Kenya, it's actually the same issues that we're also really decrying about when it comes to the IPPs, the independent power producers, as far as electricity is concerned. You've realized over time there's been a hike of prices in electricity, and there had been issues of, if we continue this way, might we be looking into how South Africa is looking like? This country, I mean, power would even go for like 5 days, 4 days. The ripple effect to the economy?
The question is it an African problem or a leadership problem?
A good question. But the wrong person. Good question. Because it's time we need to be thinking about some of these issues. Like, take also a case in point in Nigeria, because of the electoral process. And you realize also in this country, the number of registered voters vis-a-vis the ones that came out to vote, it does not even tally. And the question again that also has been asked over time is that, might we also be needing to look at our electoral process? Don't we trust the electoral process anymore? Are we due for a break?
Yes, we are, but in a bit, I want us to take a look at these particular stories after we take this particular short break. But remember, to keep on engaging with us in regards to these particular stories here, okay? The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. Keep talking with us. Keep talking to us. Let us know where you're watching us from, okay? Is it a win for UDA as Raila allies are defecting? We shall be taking a look at these stories in depth after we take this short commercial break right here on Good Morning
Just before
Kenya.
the break, Ram, director says that we can continue a bit for like 5 minutes. And there's also a story that you did mention. That is owning of Telkom, despite the 6 billion purchase.
Yes, yes.
Where is our money?
Where is our money going to?
Where is our money? This is quite, should I say, interesting or disturbing? Because it turns out Helios, the company that was supposed to, the company that actually was sort of like the private company that was owning Telkom, because the government was looking into buying back Telkom so that it leaves the private entity and comes back to government. This was done in the sunset days of the previous regime, and we saw quite an amount of money being released. And also this was the control of budget. Yesterday, Margaret Nyakango was responding to before the budget committee of Parliament, headed by the Molo member of Parliament, that is Kimani Kuria, and she really had a difficult time explaining even how she authorized this amount. And it's turning out that the state has not yet gotten back Telkom, and the whole idea was we pay off this 6 billion so that Telkom leaves Helios and it comes back to government. As it turns out, Helios is still owning a big chunk of about, let me just get that figure.
It's actually, if you look at what the Solicitor General Ken Ogeto said, he told the Joint Parliamentary Committee that the shareholding of Telkom Kenya was still in the hands of 2 companies registered in the Cayman Island and Mauritius 7 months after the government purchased these particular shares. So was it hot air
but
that was purchased?
It was supposed to come back to government, yet this company is still holding big chunk and big shares of Telkom. But again, the biggest issue has also been Telkom was previously government owned. At what point did it become privatized? And also, at what point did we see the need to return it back to government? And at this point that government was wanting to buying it off, was it an emergency? Because you realize Article 223 of the Constitution says that the only time money can be released like that without parliamentary approval is in the event of an emergency, that is one, and in the event of whereby this money had not been appropriated. So it just simply means that this money had not been budgeted for. But you realize at this point, it wasn't an emergency because, I mean, buying off Telkom from Helios in just, is it weeks to the elections? How was this an emergency?
I've got actually the percentages here. According to the Standard, while appearing before the committees, Ogeto said that despite the fact that the firm was paid for the 100% acquisition of the company, the government still held, take note, 37.9%
Imagine,
of the
that's
shares.
not even half of it.
Jamhuri Holdings has 56%. What is going on?
Good questions, but the people to respond to these questions.
What is going on?
And you see, this is really coming at a time whereby as a country, there's really quite a lot we are dealing with that you really don't need to be seeing money flying off left, right, and center without it going through the proper constitutional process. And then who is going to be accounting for this money? 6 billion is not mean feat. And also this is coming at a time whereby actually the back page of the Daily Nation has that story that Maize millers want their money. 4 billion again was released just before the election. And Maize millers are saying that only 1.7 billion is what they've been paid. So 2.5, actually it was 2.3. But then in between the time they were paid, that is August 15th, and now the interest has accumulated to about 269 million. This is why the figure is coming up to 2.5, which is now what the government is owing to Maize millers. But where is this money? Government says it released it.
And
Maize miller says they haven't yet gotten it.
The identity of the company that holds the remaining shares is still unknown. Still, we do not know who holds the remaining shares. Actually, in 2016, that is 2016, Helios acquired 60% of Telkom Kenya following a receipt of regulatory approval. And in their website, they indicate that they exited the company in September 2022, according to their website.
Yeah, I mean, we're just really bringing, those similarities as per how, where this money went to, as far as Hillers is concerned, Maize Millers is concerned, the 6 billion, 4 billion. And the biggest question is, where is the money?
Where is the money?
Keeping the money.
I want us to take that break now.
Yes,
and then we shall be back taking a look at some of these stories making headlines these fine Wednesday morning. We are looking at, remember, the Standard, the Star, the Daily Nation, and the People Daily. Some stories making headlines today, including what Raila defiantly says, that as Azimio, they declared Monday a public holiday.
It's quite interesting because it's only the Interior Cabinet Secretary who can declare a public holiday. But anyway, let's take that break.
We don't know if we will go to work that day. Let's take that break. Yeah. We'll be back right here on Good Morning Kenya. Keep it KBC, Channel 1.
Learning is it's something that we do every day. Don't stop. Don't quit. You can still pursue other dreams, but don't let go of whatever it is that you really want to do, because that is what gives you fulfillment. And I'm speaking this for myself, because today I feel totally fulfilled as a woman. I have learned a lot. I have had challenges. I am still questioning. I am still learning. But I walk every day with a smile on my face, because what I am doing is so fulfilling. So every woman out there, go do it.
You'll also discover that there's a woman who can give you something no other woman has given you. Alonso? That man's dead.
You know, Ruben was so brave, Nanny. So courageous. He saved my life.
Let's go and bring us a couple of beers. I'm just so happy to see you, Fabiola. To see that you're fine. It's such a relief, honestly.
Mr. Bai? Never came to ask me yourself. We told you not to leave and to always keep your eyes on that dress, so why did you leave that dress alone that day? So I'm not going back to work for the magazine again.
Isn't this one of my flowers? Your crazy hair gives you away no matter where you go. How come you two still have time to come here and party? And why didn't you invite me?
It's not a party.
Oh, Jenny, she's cleaning the toilet right now.
Excuse me? Why is she cleaning the toilet? Don't you have cleaning staff in charge of that?
It's not like that.
Tell me the truth and the real reason you're here. Why don't you get a real job?
Exactly 20 minutes to the top of the hour. You're right in time for our first conversation this Wednesday morning on our segment Women in Leadership. Basically, just what we're looking at is women in places of influence, places of leadership, and just looking at what it took for them to get into these positions and what they are doing in this position, and also the underlying challenges and loopholes and how to deal with that. That is part of what forms center of our conversation at this moment. And I am holding court with Dr. Susan El Garabawi, who is the Vice Chair UNESCO, also the Head of Marine Geophysics Department at the National Institute of Oceanography and Fisheries. That is in Egypt, right?
Yes, thank you. That's right.
Yeah, welcome to the program, Dr.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me with you here in Kenya as a country, and also in the TV of Kenya, official TV. And good morning, Kenya.
Yes.
Good morning, all the African countries.
I hear you. Right, just before we get to who you are and why you're in the country and the programs you're set to do, let's just begin with the basics. Oceanography. Okay. What is this?
Oceanography is the main life we have, because everything in our planet starts by water. And what we have in Africa, we are very, very, very lucky at the continent that we are surrounding with a lot of oceans, the Indian, the Atlantic, and also the Mediterranean Sea. So I found it hard for African countries and African people not to know about oceanography. They must be aware, because this is the main resource we had, especially for the future. All the world are looking for the blue economy. The blue economy is all the resources that is coming from oceans. And they fight and go harder who will be responsible or who will control these resources. And for us as African countries, as we say, we have a lot of waters, territorial waters, and also we could get use of the international waters. We could talk about this later, because this is also an opportunity, especially for African countries. What is oceanography? It's the marine environment. As we have a terrestrial environment, we have also the same on marine. Marine, we could talk about the biodiversity in the marine, including fisheries, coral reefs, seagrasses, bottom faunas, all the marine biotas that live in the water column and on the sediment seabed floor. We could talk about also the oceanography from the physical oceanography, like the ocean currents, the waves, the sea surface temperatures, and how this affect our climate, how this affect the transportation of the currents, affects the climate change. All of this is also under the umbrella of oceanography. We could also talk about geology. Marine geology and marine geophysics is an important field in oceanography, because we have to know how the seafloor is, its features, the structure of it, what is formed from rocks, type of sediments. Their grain size also affect very well in the settlement of the biodiversity on the seafloor. Oil and gas.
So it's quite
minerals,
holistic, basically.
So whatever you will have on environment is important to study in the marine field.
I hear you. So is it safe for us to say that basically, just in easier terms, that oceanography is a branch of science that largely deals with properties of marine and sea life?
Yeah.
In
easy way,
terms,
in easy way, not with the scientific words.
So that's correct to say that.
But this is the marine environment at all.
I hear you. But there's something you said while you're responding to what oceanography is, that you said that you wondered why people don't even know or understand what this is. Why did you say that?
Because this is what we feel when we are working and start to ask people their backgrounds about oceanography, or what there are backgrounds about the resources we had. Few numbers that know the real answers or the true answers. Let us say. Others could talk generally with some mistakes, and others know nothing. And this is what we call ocean literacy. And this is one of the main programs that the IOC is working on during this ocean decade.
All right. So then, tell us more about who you are. I mean, you have so many titles underneath your name, acquired so much.
Yeah.
You know, we keep saying that, especially as women, getting into position of influence and leadership is not easy.
It's not
That's what
easy,
this segment is always all about. Just looking at women who've gotten there to the top ladder and some of these loopholes that still exist and looking for better ways to seal them, if I should say. So really, who's Dr. Susan El Garabawi?
Okay. I'm just a marine researcher. I'm the head of the Marine Geophysics Department at the National Institute of Oceanography and Fisheries. This is in Egypt. The institution that I've affiliated to is one of the oldest institutions in all Africa. It's established from 1918, so it's more than 100 years now, working on oceanography and studying the ocean science. At the same time, our institution is have this ranked at the first on Africa and the Middle East in the Saimago research institution ranking. And this is make us or put on us a huge responsibility to start to lead the ocean science in all Africa and the Middle East. For myself, I'm the head of the Marine Geophysics Department. I'm also have the honor to be the IOC Africa Vice Chair for the Subcommission of Africa and Arab States. I also have other responsibilities, like the Executive Director of the Technology and Innovation Office in my institution, and also the Entrepreneurship Club for improving the innovations for early career students also. I work a lot with the international UN programs, especially for the International Seabed Authority for deep sea mining and deep ocean research and ocean expeditions all over the world oceans, like in the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans. We make a lot of expeditions there for marine exploration. So I'm part of it. I'm also part of the women in empowering the women in marine deep sea mining committee of ISA. We work a lot in this field, which is very important to know how we could empower women, especially from the LDCs and island states.
What are these LDCs and island states?
Low developed countries and the island low developed countries also, because those two categories have less opportunities to go for training or to go for ship expeditions. So we give them the priority to take this positions or these initiatives and help them to go through.
We'll come to this LDC and the island areas in a short while for you to tell us even which places and areas and countries perhaps you've been to as far as this empowering is concerned. But before then, talk to me also about how you got into this space. All right, we understand who you are and what you do and the many titles underneath your name, but also how did you get into this space? Marine, sea life?
Marine sea life is very interesting. When you just enter this area, you could never go back.
Much as they say it's a men's kind of dominated field.
And this is our struggle.
We'll come to that. I mean, there's a lot to talk about. We'll come to that.
Yeah. Because when we started, I started after my graduation from the college. I graduated from marine environment. I have my bachelor degree in marine environment. Then I started my work in marine environment in the Oceanography Institution in Egypt. Started by my master's and PhD, then I graduated.
Still in the same?
Yes, in the same institution. But
I'm saying still in the same field, marine?
Marine, yeah, but I got a different discipline inside the umbrella. The marine environment is a huge umbrella, so sometimes I work for pollution, sometimes I work for climate change, other times for oil and gas, other times for archaeology. So you have a lot of disciplines to do under this huge umbrella. But what I really like is the expeditions, the surveys we did on board the research vessels. We at the National Institute of Oceanography and Fisheries have 2 research vessels. One of them, I rule it, or I'm the chief scientist of it, and it's a great honor to me to say that I'm the first woman to be the chief scientist of our research vessels. And this comes from what we have did during the last years. We worked hard, we struggled, and say, no, we could do that, because as you know, this maritime area is only blocked for men. And they never let you in.
I mean, really in itself, it's a big achievement as the first woman researcher in your own right.
Yes.
But is this really what you wanted to do? Marine, sea life, ocean, oil and gas?
This is what I like, because it's really fascinating when you are in this ship with only the ocean and the sky, and you are exploring new areas. This is really nice.
This is where your heart is.
Yeah.
We'll come to the challenges.
This is really passion, yes.
Oh, passion as well. We'll come to the challenges in a short while, because I mean, there's really quite a lot to discuss in that regard. I mean, just while I was preparing for this, I came across the fact that it's only beginning 1960, that's when women were allowed to travel in the ocean vessel. So before then, you couldn't be allowed. It was only men who were allowed.
It's only men, yes.
We'll come to that in a short while. But before then, tell me why you're in the country. Is it for the same purpose? Are there programs related to this that you're undertaking?
Yeah, here in Kenya, you mean? Yes, we are here to attend and organizing the 7th session for the IOC Africa Subcommission Assembly. This meeting is prepared every 2 years. So under the umbrella of the IOC, to let people know what is IOC. IOC is the Intergovernmental Ocean Committee, and it follows the UNESCO. It's first established in 1960 for the whole world, and first with 150 member states. Then in 2012, we have our subcommission for Africa and Arab states, and it's located here in Kenya, in Nairobi, in the Eastern Office of UNESCO here. From this date, from 2012, we start to have our meetings and our programs to how we will work on African countries, how we could help the African states to improve their oceanographic studies, oceanographic programs, use the sustainable use of the resources, and the main important, as I told you, is the ocean literacy also, how we make a capacity building for those institutions that working on marine oceanography. And what I'm really like is the program of the young career professions. For the ECOPS, we have a great program for them for improving their skills and capabilities. This is what the main targets we are working on. So we will start our session today. It starts from 15 to 17. During these 3 days, we have all the member states of the IOC Africa Subcommission. They will attend and start to discuss what we have did during the past 2 years, and we are preparing what we are preparing for the next 2 years, from 2023 to 2025. Our plan for the next 2 years also, and what is the main priority programs that we will work on.
So this began when? Did you say 2012?
2012, for the Subcommission of Africa. But for the whole IOC, it starts from 1960.
1960. So let's just stick to Africa for a moment, because this began in 2012. This is 10 plus years. And you look at some of these programs, including training, capacity building, ocean literacy. How has it been? What has been the positive impact of this program when you look at this sector or this area that is oceanography?
During those 12 years, we already had many programs that have been done. We had a lot of initiatives for the young career students to go to different marine institutions to have training, and also to work on the new technology equipments. Some others have their master's degrees. We could give them this opportunity to go abroad and have their master's or PhD, or even in their countries, by giving them funds to make their masters. At the same time, we have this global network for data managing, and also for the observation. What we lack in Africa is the data observation. We had a long coastal areas, coastal lines, but not all of these areas are covered and
when
measured.
When you say data observation, what do you mean?
I mean observing and measuring the main physical parameters of the ocean, the temperature, the sea surface temperature, the pH. pH is very important because we are facing this acidification problem due to climate change, and also observing the currents, the tides, sea level rise. This also one of the parameters is important to measure due to the climate change issues also. We had a lot to observe, like also the biota. The biological life should be observed, especially for the coral reefs, the seagrasses. All of those are very important to be observed because they are in risk. So we have to protect them.
So when you look at these programs, just allow me to stick there for a short while. Does it cut across both men and women, or is it women alone? In whichever way,
yes. Why? Let us say that for men, they are dominating. We're still underrepresented.
They're good enough.
But we already had started, and we had our willing to have. And what from the main SDGs we have during this ocean decade, 2021-2030, is the gender equality. And that's what we are working on. All the UN organizations give the priority to women. But the problem we face, we don't have girls to apply. When we make this announce and we want people to go abroad or to go on board the research vessels or to have training, the number of girls that apply is still so little. So what we are working on now is to give them this push, help them to feel that it's okay, you could do this. You are strong enough to do that.
Yeah, I hear you. And I want us to take a very quick breather, but when we come back, we now come to look at some of these issues. You've just talked about men are dominating, and so the whole idea also is to see how we can increase or upscale women into this field, the field of science. In Kenya, we keep talking about STEM subjects, for instance.
STEM subjects, yes. This is very important.
The engineering, mathematics, we don't see women here. So we also want to look at perhaps, as you talk about gender equality, and of course these features in the SDG, just what more can be done, outside from what is being done, which is good enough by itself, but also what more can be done, because you realize, again, there's quite a number of issues. Just again, while I was preparing for this, I came across that matters of sexual harassment, women still face this in this particular field. And of course, I know this cuts across. But I mean, when you look at some of these fields that where you see even women less, you need to get more encouragement for them to get into this space. But if they can face discrimination, sexual harassment, then how will we get them into these spaces? We look at that, the challenges, and also the technologies, how Africa can adopt some of these capacities to continue to increase on some of these technologies that are available into these spaces, and how we can improve, our continent as far as that is concerned. I'd also want us to look at the difference between Egypt and Kenya in regards to,
this
oceanography. Spaces of science. Is it any different? Is it the same? Are we doing anything different from what you're doing? Are you doing anything different from what we are doing, and how perhaps you can borrow and just trying to see how we can make the African continent a good and a big block as far as some of these issues are concerned. Now we take that breather. Of course, you've just heard there's really plenty more to discuss after this break, so don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
discover that there's a woman who can give you something no other woman has given you.
Alonso?
That man's dead.
You know, Ruben was so brave, Nanny. So courageous. He saved my life.
Let's go and bring us a couple of beers.
I'm just so happy to see you, Fabiola. To see that you're fine. It's such a relief, honestly.
Mahali huyo.
Haya mambo madogo madogo haya ndio ilimfanya tukampoteza ndugu wetu.
Aki Kibet. Usirudi nyumbani tafadhali.
Shasun wala dile. Ulishukul kaawat na.
Tuko na solid intelligence nasema Burhan ako alive na anapanga his last attack. Atatumia Wajia border post kuingia Kenya. Na huko ndio tunaenda.
It's now official. Don't worry about that. Just perks of live TV. Sometimes it happens. Anyway, welcome back to the program. We definitely appreciate your valid company, and we continue apace with our conversation, still holding court with Dr. Susan L. Garabawi, who's the Vice Chair, UNESCO, IOC Africa. That is the Intergovernmental Ocean Committee of Africa. Also, she's the head of Marine Geophysics Department at the National Institute of Oceanography and Fisheries, that is in Egypt. And we're just also tracking the reason as to why she's in Kenya, and basically as far as oceanography is concerned. Dr. Susan, before we took that break, we're now just looking at some of those challenges and looking at better ways to deal with them. Of course, this also tying with the different programs that have been undertaken so far. And so then I was just wanted to find out from you, when you look at these programs that you've talk about training, capacity building, ocean literacy, is it cut across men and women? Is it only women alone? And you're telling me that men already are dominating?
Yeah, this is the main problem. Yeah. We still have this lack of access to women to the STEM science at all. It's not only for marine science or maritime sector, but for the STEM, even for engineering, for flight pilots, you don't have them as a reasonable number. Also for maritime, you don't have a ship captain, a woman, only few numbers all over the world. This lack of access, even for the marine science, as to be on board a research vessels, it was blocked for men for centuries. It's only to find a few members of women that could have this opportunity is very few all over the world. Measure this to Africa.
Yes, it's even worse.
A little, but we are on the way. I could say. I
are
find
making
the
progress
future.
at least.
Yes, we have progress, and the future is with us.
You know, the whole idea of this segment is trying to see how we can break that ceiling, that glass ceiling that has been set, and just take account of women who've already gone ahead and see how we can encourage those women who are coming up, that indeed they can get into these spaces of leadership, spaces of influence. It has not been set aside for a specific gender. As long as you're well able and capable, you're good to go. But just from where you sit, and perhaps you can even pick examples from Egypt, for instance, what really has hampered women so much? So why I ask this is because, yes, it has been male-dominated field, and we've seen, just as you rightfully said, men taking the top positions. But over time, we have had programs, we have had initiatives that encourage women to do this. I mean, you yourself, you just said that you are in a bid of empowering women to get into these spaces. But still, yes, progress is being made, but not quite there yet.
Okay. We had made this survey at a map for gender mapping all over the African countries. The we send the surveys for girls and women that are working in the field of oceanography or for marine science at all. And the results we get that what the top challenge they have is the gender stereotype. Why they have this? They always say that when we are in an institution or in a place where there is men and women are working on the same place for marine science, all the managers give the big responsibilities to men, not to give them to the women, despite they are well skilled. And by this, these women couldn't express all their skills or what they have or what they could do. They only have this small work inside the lab or even office work, and they didn't allow them to go on board research vessels or to do job important issues. Or by this, they plug their way to be a leadership, because to be a leadership you have to make a lot of progress and a lot
and you have to keep doing it.
Yes. This was the main problem, and this is the problem have to be solved from the managers themselves. The institutions have to change their strategy and give a woman a little bit more space to work. At the same time, there is, from the beginning, as we was talking about the STEM studies, there is no enough opportunities for women to go in this field of science. But now we could encourage our girls to go. It's not easy. It's not that hard. You could do and go for science, for engineering. It's easy. And in Egypt, we already have a lot of students that are working on those fields, and they do progress. When I was in the college, I graduated the first on my class, and it was good to be a girl and to be the first on the class. At the same time, there is this gender-based culture idea about women. So what we are working now on is to how we could switch or change this culture point of view to women. It starts from the families. So I'm here asking all the parents to give the opportunity and to give the chances to their girls to go and study STEM educations to have their own career. We are strong and we could do that. At the same time, we find not all the women have this mentorship. They don't have this models or idols that they could look for and say, okay, we could do like what maybe she did, or and also this mentorship programs is very important. Why? Because we will build their characters, build their responsibility, give them confidence that they could do this, and at the same time we could give them from our experience, so they will be more skilled.
I hear you. I want us to come to what your vision is for the future of Africa as far as oceanography is concerned, and also the technology that perhaps can be adopted. But before we do that, I just want you to elucidate on some of these issues that you talked about. You've touched on culture, touched on managers and employers, and also mentorship. But I want us to dwell just for a short moment, particularly on culture, simply because you realize that we are a product of culture, environment, and it's really, culture is deep-rooted, and we say that there's some cultures which are retrogressive. We need to shun and move away from that. But you realize this is going to perhaps take a long time before this happens. From where you sit, what can we do about some of these issues? Because we can talk about this oftentimes, but you realize there are people that still think, even in a working environment, particularly work A is for a man, work B is for a woman, and these are elites. In fact, I'm tying culture to the managers and employers. These are elites. So how much more, even as you talked about families, how much more that mother, that father in the village who still thinks that my daughter cannot do engineering, cannot do oceanography, cannot do science. I mean, maybe if they have to do career, maybe education. No, sometimes.
Yes, they prefer the culture or the arts field, not the science
but
field.
But then who said? So what can we do to begin sort of like changing this mindset? Because you realize it's a mindset kind of issue.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And this is why I told we have to start it from the families.
All right. So family is very key on this one.
Yes, especially the parents. I could take about my experience in this issue.
Yes, please.
As you know, we come from Arab country, Muslim country.
Yeah.
So in our region, it's not okay for a girl to go on board a research vessel abroad in the Pacific Ocean. And what I'm talking about, that was on 2008. So it's a long time ago. But when I have this initiative, it was given to me by the International Seabed Authority for Expedition.
Just hold it there, Dr. Susan. We want to check your mic just for a short while, but I mean, this is still what we are conversing about, just looking at some of this issue. Our main focus is centered on oceanography, just trying to understand this branch of science that deals with properties of marine and sea life, and also looking at the uptake and the upscale of women in some of these spaces. And basically also what we're looking into is how we can shift the culture, how we can shift the mindset, how we can look into perhaps even what employers and managers are doing as far as getting women into these spaces is concerned. Dr. Susan, you're just telling me, you know, just tying down culture, employers, managers to your own story.
Yes, that was very inspiring for me and for others whenever I talk about this story.
Given you come from a Muslim Arab country.
Yes, and I found that the audience said, you inspiring us. That will fill me that, okay, I'm do what I have to do. Let us, by this time, I have this initiative from the International Seabed Authority to be on board a research vessels for 2 months in the Pacific Ocean. So that was one of my dreams. But how you will say to your family something like that?
Yeah. And how do you even convince them? You
convince
have to
them, and how they will accept something like that. We start to say, this is okay, this is good for my career, and I like it, and I need it. It will be safe. But what parents could understand this?
But do they accept it?
Finally,
eventually,
they accept.
After a lot of push and pull and convincing.
To be honest, my dad support me a lot, which make it easier.
So you at least had that family support.
Yes, which make it easier for me. But for a mom,
it's a bit difficult.
Yeah. But at the end, I traveled and I have the whole experience. After that, after I returned back to Egypt, all the girls in the institution start to apply for the same initiative again. And they, okay, we find you, Susan, do it and succeeded, so why not we will not do? What impressing me more, that I find other men start to apply and say, look, she's a girl and
if she's done it, we can also do it.
Yes.
And I mean, that's what this segment is all about. This is basically what it is all about.
So this is the mentorship we are talking about. Yes.
Exactly. But also, there's again something you did mention, that in Egypt, at least the numbers are increasing. Just if you're privy to the data, for example, is it more compared to Kenya? From what you've gathered or what you know?
To be honest, I don't know the numbers of exact numbers of Kenya, but I could talk about what we had in Egypt. Now and
perhaps how you are upscaling, women in this business.
Yes, in our institution we are something like now 40%. So we are.
That's almost half mark.
Yes, but still the leaderships are less represented to somehow, and the important thing is the marine research vessels, to be on board our research vessels. So this is what we are working on now, to make it available for the girls to go. But the problem, as I told you, we don't have this much number of girls that apply, so we are trying to convince them to do.
Let me just believe that now you're in the country for these 3 days with the programs that you're undertaking, and also you being in this space already and talking to, women who are watching and listening, perhaps this might sort of like twitch their mind a bit.
Please.
All right, so talk to me about your vision on the future of ocean science in Africa. And of course, as you respond to that, you can also be telling me how, since after 1960, that women were now at least allowed to sail through the oceanographic vessels, if at all that has changed, that tying down with the vision you have for ocean science in the African continent.
Okay, for the African continent, we are working hard for the sustainable management of the ocean we had.
Yeah.
What we mean by the sustainable management is we have a lot of resources in the oceans. What we called it the blue economy. What we need to improve our resources, protect our resources to be sustainable and to keep it for the future generations. One of the most important problems we face is the overfishing on our waters.
Okay.
All the African waters.
But someone would say we are dealing with issues of food security, so we are
illegal fishing.
Okay.
This is unacceptable anymore. We have to secure our resources. This is not ours. This is for the future.
It's for the sea and marine life.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have to manage this in a sustainable way. Stop this illegal fishing, unreported fishing. Those are the main problems we had. We also working a lot on the aquaculture.
Okay.
The aquaculture is a source or a resource for fishes and food security, as you say, and also at the same time we could protect our oceans clean, but if we make it on land. And if we go for the marine aquaculture sector, it will be also okay, but under regulations, because we have to protect our environment.
Okay.
The other thing we are working on also the program on the climate change. This is a global problem, not only for African countries. We are facing this sea level rise. We are facing some of the biota that it changed their behaviors or it changed from place to place. Invasive species we now could face also, and the coral reefs and the seagrasses are in danger. Yes, so we are working a lot to protect those important resources. One of the programs also is data managing and observing. So when we observe, when you have the data, you could control, you could take the right decisions. How we could say that we need to protect this area, and this is a priority and this is not, without having a clear right data. So to have this network of observation for the whole continent, African continent, is a must, and we are working on it now. The observations for protecting the environment, the observation is important also for making our coastal areas resilient, and also to protect them against the natural hazard we may face, like tsunamis or storm surges or even the sea level rise.
Okay. Now that you're saying that we have a lot of resources in our oceans, and you really brought forth also quite a number of issues that we can, not issues, but you brought forth quite what we can do to sort of like protect, this a lot of resources that we have. But before we get even to that, I just want to get from you, do we even know that we have a lot of resources?
Yeah.
Especially, are we, as an African bloc, are we aware of that? Why I ask that is because you've just also said that there's a lot of activities that we are doing which is hampering the marine and sea life. So then, do we understand what we have? Maybe we need to start from there.
Okay. We know that we have fisheries, and we know that we have, but the way we deal with those resources is the wrong way.
That's the problem.
This is the problem.
Okay.
Yeah, we have resources. Everyone knows that we have resources, especially the life resources, because we could see it directly.
Okay.
What is hard to know about is the resources underneath the ocean bottom, like the oil and gas and the minerals. This needs a special technology to explore.
And we definitely have to talk about that technology before we get to wrap up, much as we have about, 10 minutes to do this. But again, there's something also that I want you to perhaps elucidate a bit further. That yes, we talked about even the fishing activities, and perhaps you can help us understand how can we get a good balance, because right now, especially in the African continent and what you call the Horn of Africa, we are dealing a lot with issues of food security. Talk about Kenya, Somalia, and the likes. So then we can safely say, or some can safely say, that it's because of the hunger issues, the famine issues. That's why we'll go all the way. But again, as you also say, that we need to be protecting this marine life, especially those that we can see, like the fish, for instance. How do we balance this? The marine life and what the humans are dealing with.
What we need, the food security is something like national security.
Okay.
You couldn't protect your country without even feed your people. So to have these resources secured, we need to go through the law and don't use the law in the right way. The problem is we have this illegal fishing. They use sorts of nets with small holes that is block even the very, very small fries. So they stop the cycle for the fish to complete and grow to be adult. This is one big issue that destroyed the fisheries in our waters. The other thing that they start to fish the good quality fishes and sell it back. This is the unreported fisheries.
So they get it and sell it. They don't even use it
while they are in the waters. They didn't return back to the country. You get what I mean?
I get it.
Yes, they have their fishing vessels. They fish all the stock they have. They sell it to other countries or other
for their own gains.
For their own gains. So this is the unreported, what we mean by unreported fisheries, because all of this stock is not counted in our country's stocks, and we didn't even get used of it for to feed our people, or at least to have economy from it.
So it means that, there's really a lot we need to be doing, much as we need to get that balance between dealing with issues of food security as an African bloc and protecting our marine and sea life. All right. So let's come to technologies. And I just want to get from you how Africa can strengthen their capacity to sustain this new technology.
This is the main program, one of the main programs we are working on. To have these new technologies, you need financial support. And what we working on now is to have funds to get these new technologies to the institutions that are working on marine science. This is one category we are working on. The other category is to share our resources with other countries. And this is the main target we in the National Institute of Oceanography and Fisheries in Egypt are working on. We already have these 2 research vessels, one is special for fisheries studies and the other is for marine exploration. The one for the marine exploration, that I'm the chief scientist of this research vessels, we had all the well-equipped new technology instruments for environmental studies monitoring, water monitoring, pollution monitoring, bathymetric surveys for seabed feature bathymetry and seabed characteristic mapping, imaging the sea floor by sonar. Even the subsea, we could also use the seismic instruments to identify the oil and gas where it is, the traps and the reservoirs. Also we work on the archaeology, we work for habitat mapping, for saving the coral reefs. So all of these technologies is open for all the African countries. And this is what we announced during the last kick-off conference for priorities and challenges in Africa that was held and hosted in Egypt, Cairo, during May 2022. Our president of the institution, Professor Hamouda, had announced clearly that it's our resources and capabilities is open for all the African countries to come and and have the training on board our research vessels, on board our labs, and on our labs, on all the branches of the institution, because we have a lot of branches that cover all Egypt, Red Sea and Mediterranean Sea. So from here, I'm also announce again, we are open to have all the African students. One of the main implementation things we have did is Egypt, or the National Institute of Oceanography and Fisheries, is the implementing partner for the Ocean Decade. What this means that we are responsible for training for all the African countries during the whole decade under the umbrella of the IOC. At the same time, we already had made this MOU for training and scientific exchange between the Oceanographic Institution in Egypt and the Oceanographic Institution in Kenya. So we are now open to have this exchange.
It's like a partnership.
Yes.
Yeah, and you just did mention training, and that orients my next question in that regard, that I'll just also like to get the structure, how these trainings would look like, especially for the different African countries, given the fact that some of this technologies that you're talking about could sound or be perhaps very sophisticated. So then how does the structure look like for these trainings?
Yeah, we could give them this first theoretical training, so they know the methodology, the structure of each instrument, how it works, to know everything about it. This will be on the lab. Then after finishing this first step training, they will be on board the research vessel to start practically on
So they get to also do
surveys.
it practically?
Yes, for sure. This is the main important. They have to do it by themselves.
All right. So then it simply means that after that lead was lifted, that women could no longer travel using the oceanographic vessels in 1960. At least now it has sort of like created a level playing field, we could say, because now they could practically go there and do it by themselves.
Yes, and what is important also to say that we give the priorities for the girls for this initiative. So please, we need more to apply. Yes.
And the reason has been well put out why this is happening. Now, as we begin to wind down, Dr. Susan, you had mentioned earlier that in Egypt at least, and you touched on that institution, that at least this is 40% of the girls who are getting into this field and spaces. What can Kenya borrow? Because 40, not quite there yet, but it's at least good enough, almost half. What can Kenya borrow as far as getting women to these spaces that were largely known as male-dominated fields in areas?
What I ask them to do is to struggle for what they need.
Struggle?
Yes, because life is not easy.
Okay.
And it isn't easy to be a leadership in this field. You have to be well educated, have qualified, much of skills, and start to say, okay, I could do that. You will have a lot of blocks, but never make this stop you. Go and complete, and you will reach your point at the end. This is what we all did in our life. It's not only for the marine science, it's for the whole life.
Exactly.
It should be your strategy in your life.
Yes.
If I need something, I put it as a target and I work to go for it. We are, as African women, we are strong.
Yeah, that's true.
Comparing to other continents, we are strong.
Yes.
And we have this eager to do what we would like.
And can't we even say that we are multifaceted as women just by the own creation of how the woman, is and looks like. But I like what you're saying, that, and I even was writing it down, that there's going to be a lot of blocks.
Yes.
But you got to suffer through it. And I like to say anytime you have this segment, that as long as you're well educated and you can do it, and you've been tried, tested, and proven, nothing shall stop you from doing it.
Nothing will stop you.
Yeah. Good place to end it, Dr. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For your valuable inputs into this conversation. At least now we know even what oceanography is.
Thank you.
And what this
and thank you to be with you today.
Yes.
It was a great honor to be with you.
It was a pleasure hosting you.
Thank you.
All right. I have been speaking to Dr. Susan. El Garabawi, who's the Vice Chair, UNESCO, IOC Africa, that is the Intergovernmental Ocean Committee of Africa. Also, the head of Marine Geophysics Department of National Institute of Oceanography and Fisheries, that is in Egypt. Definitely just also talking to us about the different programs that they are having in the country as far as just bringing on board many women into this field of science, engineering, mathematics, and also just looking at her story as far as getting into this position of influence and leadership, which is what this segment is all about. Good place to end this conversation, but Good Morning Kenya definitely continues after this breather. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
Learning is it's something that we do every day. Don't stop. Don't quit. You can still pursue other dreams, but don't let go of whatever it is that you really want to do, because that is what gives you fulfillment. And I'm speaking this for myself, because today I feel totally fulfilled as a woman. I have learned a lot. I have had challenges. I am still questioning. I am still learning. But I walk every day with a smile on my face, because what I am doing is so fulfilling. So every woman out there, go do it.
Haya mambo madogo madogo haya ndio ilimfanya tukampoteza ndugu wetu.
Aki Kibet, usiurudi nyumbani tafadhali.
Shakhsun wala dile. Ulishukul kaawat.
Tuko na solid intelligence nasema Burhan ako alive na anapanga his last attack. Atatumia Wajir border post kuingia Kenya. Na huko ndio tunaenda.
Reggae music rocking my bones. Eastern City. It's the people's heartbeat. Moving one day at a time. Hatunaga pressure. Tukisababisha we living one day. Can't settle down until me get my body to burn. The nerves can't settle down. What's the hurry now? What's the rush? Take some time out, burn some kush. Like to shut up, you're always on the go-go. You see my run. Hey, them are no action. Back at them, not them a run.
All right, a very good morning to you. Thank you for sticking with us. We are back right here on Good Morning Kenya. Thank you for choosing KBC Channel 1, the best place to kickstart your morning. On this fine Wednesday, let's take a look at women at the forefront. My name is Ram Aguko, And when it comes to matters concerning women, let's say the truth here. Both men and women face obstacles equally. We all have obstacles that we face, both as both men and women. Regardless, women face specific gender-based hurdles and obstacles that are specific for them. And we need to find out how best can they tackle these obstacles that they face. How can they jump through these hurdles? What are the solutions that women have before them? Do we have the ability to have equitable shares when it comes to opportunities, funding, finances? Let's talk about women this fine Wednesday morning. And ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to introduce my guest joining me this morning right here. I am with Mary Muturi, the CEO of Jambo List. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, thank you.
How are you feeling?
This morning I'm feeling very good. I'm excited to be here this morning with you.
All right.
And just discuss a little bit.
Yeah, and we shall also be joined by Sarah Munyeri, who is the president of Jambo List through Zoom, that is joining us all the way from the United States of America. Sarah, good morning. Or what time is it?
it's
from wherever you're watching us, from which part of the United States? How are you feeling? All right, I haven't heard her, but I believe we will get her sound in a bit. But thank you so much for Sarah for joining us. You let us know from which state you are joining us from. Now, let me start with you, Mary.
Thank you. I'm joining you from New Jersey. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. You're saying you're joining us from which state exactly?
From New Jersey.
Wow. Thank you so much for finding time to join me today. And first things first, let's talk about women and the place where we are at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at Jambo List and what it does, and it's interesting that you're trying to, empower women out there. What do you think about the state of women when it comes to opportunities that are there within their disposal? When I started, I said that both men and women face challenges, but women have particular ones that are gender-based for them. What do you think about that?
Yes, as I said, my name is Mary Muturi of Jambo List. And it's, I believe, one of those companies in the U.S. which are all women. We are 3 ladies, and we started because of the challenges that small businesses were facing in reaching one another. But women have got a disadvantage when they are getting into a field. Sometimes people don't believe that they can manage or they can do. And especially like us 3 women in the U.S., I am retired, but my other 2 partners are working. And of course, it's like, how can you juggle 2 things at the same time? But women have got power inside. They have got this thing inside them that pushes them to see solutions happen. So even if though there are challenges of even going to get finances or just approaching doors, it's different in the U.S. than it is in Kenya. In the U.S., at least, we have got rules and regulations which guarantee that if you apply, they're not going to be looking at the gender, or they're not going to be looking that it's a woman organization. It will be registered. You'll go out and be able to do what you need to do. I'm just learning the ropes in Kenya, having been in the U.S. for over 30 years.
30 good years.
Yes.
Wow. Continuously, without any break.
Continuously, actually more than 30 years out of this country. I left this country in 1985. So I've been out of this country, and now I find myself in this country. But God has been with Jambo List. We are really getting through a lot of places that we could not have thought that would get.
Wow, I love what you've said. And you're mentioning a very important point. The challenges women face in Kenya is not the same as those that women face in the United States. And Sarah, let me come to you. Do you agree? Is that true that challenges women face in the US are different from the ones women face in Kenya? And what exactly are we looking into here?
Well, the challenges may be different, but they are actually from the same category. Most of the challenges that women face are usually either social, educational, economic, political, or psychological. Now, in the US, these particular categories, women usually face challenges, and the way of dealing with them may be different, but the challenges are always there, wherever we are.
All right, and let me first of all start with, of course, different examples shall be highlighted as we proceed with this conversation. But still, on you, Sarah, yes, you said that you've given different examples, social, political challenges that women face. Let me start by talking about funding. Of course, according to some research, women startups get a lot less investor funding than men. And the early stages of investment in businesses for women who are actually female executives has increased from 5% to 50% since 1999. What's your take in regards to investment in women, and how can we improve in that?
You are right that women face more challenges when it comes to the economic and that extension of funding to run their business, and that is pretty much similar to the challenges that they face when they're looking for equal pay or looking for certain jobs, because certain industries they may not want to employ women. But some of those challenges we can mitigate them by just keep pushing. That's what women do. You cannot give up. So you do have to face the challenge and believe in yourself. Just know that you have the strength. Other people may not perceive what you have as what you believe, but you have to believe in yourself and keep pushing. And with Jabo, that's what we believe, and that's what we do. We definitely have faced a lot of challenges, but we know that we will overcome them. And we know many other women that we support here in the diaspora that face challenges, and we share with them. They face challenges, trying to go to institution to get funding, and they face challenges because, like you said, they are not believed. They don't think that the businesses will survive.
Mm-hmm. And is it possible for us to increase funding, especially for women in startups?
It is possible because nowadays more and more we are seeing a lot of startups, getting to be large, businesses, and some of those startups are, started by women. So I don't think we should, discriminate based on the gender. I think other categories should be used to determine whether funding should be extended or not. There are many businesses that are nowadays, even in Kenya and other parts of the world, that are led by women. And those businesses are ending up, some of them becoming, multi-millionaire businesses and growing to employ many other in our country and in our local areas where women live.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting sentiments by Sarah Mary. Do you agree with what she's saying? And I'm looking at the aspect of investing in women, and I'm seeing what she's saying to be true, that many businesses today, we have seen them run and started by women, and they're doing very well. Give your thoughts in regards to that. Also, startups that women have.
Yes, giving a contrast between the US and here, and I think it's almost the same thing, because like black women and being black in America, there are always the challenges of discrimination. Although, of course, they have got many grants that they try to give to the minority, to the women as minority, to be able to start these businesses. But sometimes you find even then, you are not able to access those funds. And even here in Kenya, you remember that they started the 30% for women during the last regime.
Exactly, yeah.
But how many women really benefited? We as diaspora people, when we actually even registered a company so that we can be able to take, take advantage of the 30%. But we have never really even done anything with a company that we started, because it's so difficult to get inroads, even to be able to access those funds. And I had somebody mention and figure, it's like, oh, it was 30% for women, but all the businesses were taken by men. So they registered the companies and the women's name, but they ran the show. So we still have got a long way to go, because, we are overtaken, because I think they believe, let me start a company for my wife, but I'm the one who is going to run it.
And so isn't that an error from the women's side? I'm looking at it from that particular angle.
No.
Who should be in charge of that?
No, I don't think it's an error from the women's side, because we tried to apply even for the jobs. But, and that is the other thing that we have to think about, the diaspora in Kenya. How the diasporians are going to be able to tap what even the government is putting out for the women.
But you're looking at startups where women are the ones that have been registered to have them, yet it is the men that are running these particular startups.
Well, unfortunately, I think it's the men who register the women and just use women's names to run the business.
Or without their knowledge.
There might be knowledge, but they will just be put aside. That, So I think, and also, banks and institutions tend to think that because women, we are always, and especially if you are married, you always try to attach yourself to your spouse. They are always like, we consider our spouses. And therefore, these businesses, I think they think, okay, you have to have the support of a man to be able to succeed, and that is something that we really have to get away from, where that as spouses have to be always considered with our spouse. And in fact, I always say, even from the ID, I have been in the diaspora for this time. I have wanted to change my identity card. My husband was here, but I couldn't, because that I have to go with my husband to change my identity card.
We are going to come into that particular angle, because that is also something that I plan to touch on. But let me take us a few steps back. Are women taking advantage of funding that has been given to them? Do you feel like we are maximizing on that potential?
I cannot say very much about that, because I've just been in this country not more than a year since I came back from the US. So, but I'm yet to, to knock on doors to see whether they are going to open those doors for me.
What about women in the diaspora?
Women in the diaspora, it depends on your credit. If you have got a good credit, they will be able to consider a loan for you. They'll be able to look at it. And also for startups, they'll look at what is this organization going to do. You give your proposal, and if they see the proposal is justifiable, they'll give you the funds. So it's you have to present your case to be believable for you to have the money.
Sarah, what do you think about that particular sentiment? Are women taking advantage of funding that has been given to them? And do you agree that at some point women could be letting go of the rope?
One of the challenge that women face, or I would say even in particular the women of Kara, it's lack of information and lack of know-how. Because some of the funding that is available, women don't even know it's there. Women have may not have the expertise or the knowledge to go about applying for such funding. But where they know, women are taking advantage of that and they apply for the loans or the funds. Do they get the funding? That's another question. It's relative. But where they know that the funding is, women do apply for those kind of.
All right. And I'm looking at sensitization. How far are we? What are the steps you've taken to sensitize women to be aware of the opportunities that are available for them? So, Mary.
Let me say again, I've lived in
the US,
in the US more than I have lived here. And I think, as Sarah says, it's just the lack of knowledge. And also the women in the diaspora tend to have just, thinking of working to raise up children and all that. Of course, there are few women now who are now starting businesses because we have got more professional women who have been in the country for a long time. So you find that now we have got forums where we are able to advertise these businesses, what people can do. And you find that, we have got business women in the diaspora, and we are now advertising. We are now making people aware, and that is where Jambolis actually comes in, because Jambolis has said we have got a directory. Please register yourself in this directory so that you are known and so that people can be able to patronize your business. And also we through social media, we advertise all these women who are working in the diaspora, and we have also started advertising also those who are working in Kenya, so that more people can be able to know what are the businesses that we can get into. I know, and I have spoken to a few people. I was at the Inoro station, and through that, a lot of people are calling me. Among them are women, and they would want to know what is it that we can be able to do. We have got this organization, we have got this amount of money, but we need somebody who can come and speak to us and give us direction. So I believe Jambolis is also filling in a hole that, because now when we come to the media, we are more open. And we are out there to be able to give a solution. I spoke to another lady from Kilifi also, and who shared what they are doing, and they would want me to go and talk to them and see what are the markets which are possible, what can we be able to do. And so I believe that through Jambolis we shall be able to reach women who are there stuck and who don't know, and who have also been taken advantage of by middlemen.
Wow.
So they can go to digitization instead of selling their things the ordinary way. We can show them, you can actually have these things on website and start selling them, and they will sell. So give them alternative ways of earning their money, not through the middle people.
And through that, you've cut off the link, and you've managed to even, reduce on the expenses accrued in the process.
And they are able to get more money and be able to be paid for their work. You can imagine the things that they do, these women, take a long of time. Take somebody who is doing just a necklace or a bag, it takes time. But the middleman wants to take it all. Instead of saying, these are women, and you know, and these women, when you empower these women through their businesses, they'll be able to grow their children. You believe, you know, you are going to agree with me that when a woman gets money, they think more of their children, their education, than even a man does. A man will get the money and possibly will just go and have fun, start drinking and forget that, you know. I have got children,
Possibly.
Some of them, not all. But women, you empower women, even from the grassroots level. They are going to be able to grow their families, because you start all these things empowering the women from when they are young.
And I'm going to come to the aspect of family in a bit. Let me come to you, Sarah. I'm looking at the exposure that you're giving women. Of course, let me give you just a minute to just mention that particular aspect of exposure. Jambolis is giving women that, yes. Now, when you look at you've been on the ground. You've managed to speak with different women on different times. Within the season that you've managed to talk and interact with women, do you feel like there needs to be more exposure given and laid out to these to women out there to be aware about the alternative solutions that are there for their challenges?
Yeah, there is always room for improvement in the area. And speaking in the diaspora, we know that there is that gap that maybe some courses, maybe some semi-conferences are available, but people may not be aware of them. But with police, what we are trying to do, where we are coming to fill in, it's the exposure that we can be able to really actually bring forth what is being sold or the service that is being offered by women, by people of African descent here, and make sure that it goes to the world stage. And we do that by really making sure that we encourage them to websites and businesses, and we advertise our Jabolist site. That way, by default, even where the website itself to register, and to be added into the directory is free. You get, by default, you get the exposure. You get to be advertised by default, because we advertise in Jabolist. And speaking to women, beside the need for the funding, there is also need for education on how to run their business. How do you run your expenses? How do you do your forecast? And in the coming month, we are looking at how we can be able to connect different people or different businesses with different skill sets, so that those businesses can be able to support each other. And we think that that will help. However, we'll continue to look for other resources from the American government, from Kenyan government, to be able to support our customers and make sure that they keep increasing in knowledge to be able to run their businesses and, increase their revenues.
All right, thank you. Let's talk about that. She's mentioned a very important aspect, educating women in business. Yes, you've managed to, stay within the United States of America for over 3 decades. Do you feel like more needs to be done to educate women in business? And how far do you feel like we need to move in order for us to achieve this particular target?
In the U.S., there is an effort to educate women, but I think the women should themselves also feel the need to be educated.
They should feel it.
They're themselves.
That personal initiative.
Yes, that personal initiative, where if you bring somebody in with business, how to educate, how to do your budget, how to make sure that although you are working, you have to know that you have a retirement at the end of your time, and you have got children who are, so you have got very many actually people among our own self who are now financiers and who are there and have been trying, and we have held seminars to educate women on how to do their budgets, on how, if they want to enter into a business, what they should be thinking about, and even for their children, how are you going to be able to save for education for your children? So we have actually financials, we have people in finance among our Kenyan community who have been very vocal about teaching the women how to manage finances so that they can be able to leverage whatever comes on their way. And we tell them, businesses and opportunities come without notice. So you have to be ready to be able to take the opportunities that come along your way. But
the problem that you've highlighted there is sometimes women don't take a personal initiative.
They don't take the personal initiative, or they think it's a waste of time, or they feel I don't have enough money to be able to budget or to go into these deep financial lessons.
All right, and we are going to talk about that after this break. What is the problem? Because I have seen some women see opportunities there, but they drop them. And you wonder why. Personal initiative, as you've said, is very, very important. And after this break, we shall talk about family commitments. Many women make difficult decisions, and they choose to leave some of these lucrative opportunities because of family. Is that a letdown for them? All right, let's talk about that. Let's take that break. We'll be back with more right here on Good Morning Kenya. Keep it KBC.
Mr. Bai? Never came to ask me yourself. We told you not to leave and to always keep your eyes on that dress, so why did you leave that dress alone that day? So I'm not going back to work for the magazine again.
Isn't this one of my flowers? Your crazy hair gives you away no matter where you go. How come you two still have time to come here and party? And why didn't you invite me?
It's not a party. Oh, Jenny, she's cleaning the toilet right now.
Excuse me? Why is she cleaning the toilet? Don't you have cleaning staff in charge of that?
It's not like that.
Tell me the truth and the real reason you're here. Why don't you get a real job?
She's still not picking.
I've told you, farming is not my thing.
Oh, lakini eating is.
Wewe! Why are there that many?
Si ugonjwa wangu ni meja. Hata hizi dawa zinisaidi. Daktari alisema ile mimi ugonjwa wangu niko nao ni kupendwa tu. Peter, naendeleaje?
Huyo sasa ni kamnyweso tu na sherehe.
Watu wengi sana wanapenda idea yetu. And soon, mimi na wewe tutakuwa mamilionea.
Hivyo ndio nataka kusikia.
What do your parents do for a living?
They died.
I know I messed up, and it's been eating me up.
Pete, you have a wife and you have a girlfriend. I'm the last person you want to speak to.
Sasa samahani moyo. Haya mambo madogo madogo haya ndio ilimfanya tukampoteza ndugu wetu.
Aki Kibet. Usirudi nyumbani tafadhali.
Shukran wala dile. Ulishukul kaawat na.
Tuko na solid intelligence inasema Burhan ako alive na anapanga his last attack. Atatumia Wajir border post kuingia Kenya. Na huko ndio tunaenda.
All right, welcome back. We're still proceeding with this conversation. It is women at the forefront right here on KBC. This is Good Morning Kenya if you've just joined us. And my name is Ram Aguko. And we proceed with this conversation. I am with Mary Muturi, who is joining me here in studio, the CEO of Jambolist. And via Zoom, joining us all the way from New Jersey, is Sarah Munyiri, the president of Jambolist. Thank you so much, ladies, for being part of this conversation. I love how the conversation is flowing. Let's wrap it up on the initiative part. Self-initiations, self-motivation, that self-drive, push. And on this, I want to bring in Sarah. Sarah, what do you think about the aspect of self-drive for women? Is it that we lack the female mentors for women who can be able to push them to their limits? Or is it just a personal problem where a lady just has a problem in terms of motivating themselves to achieve or to jump through a particular hurdle?
You know, I think self-motivation particularly depend on individuals, and it depends on how much you want it. If you really want it, you will work hard and you will get it. If you feel that you don't want to get it or you don't want it as much, maybe you won't. But I think beside just wanting it, there's a lot of factors that affect women when it comes to businesses, when it comes to even work. And some of them are just, like in Kenya, it's just the traditional ideas about the roles of girls or roles of women that restrict women from engaging themselves into business and actually being able to put in enough hours to be able to succeed in it. So there's many factors that affect women when it comes to, the drive. Some of them, it's also lack of mentors, lack of other successful women that you can maybe relate to, and maybe not being able to relate well with men when it comes to mentorship. So there are several factors that definitely affect the drive. But I must say that I'm very, very proud of many women this day and age. When I come, I visit Kenya or even here in the abroad, I'm seeing a lot more women getting into business and actually succeeding in it. So I think slowly things are changing. Women are taking possession in building the economy and growing their own businesses.
Wow, I love that point. Mary, do you feel like we have enough women role models?
I I think we have. And of course, sometimes we only think about women role models because they are up there. But just take our parents, for example. Okay. They are good role models. When I was growing up, my mother has always been a businesswoman. And she's my role model because I've seen how hard she has worked. And she's comfortable now because of the hard work that she put in. And I can tell of several women who worked hard. It was not like in manufacturing, it was not, but in simple things. They sold things in wholesale at Nyamakema. And they had shops which they were wholesale shops like my mother had. And then she went to construction and then, so there are enough role models if you're not only looking at one particular area. Because sometimes
the high class,
or
some certain level of
or some certain level women, because then you might never reach there.
Okay.
But if you just start from the basic and see somebody who is waking up in the morning, going to hustle, doing something, and not just staying in the house, that's still a role model of a child to know that my mother has been hustling to educate me, has been doing. So it is just letting children and letting everybody know that surely it's not just those people in the high echelon that are role models. We are all role models if we are doing what we need to do and educate those who are younger of hard work, because hard work is what builds you. It's not just by looking at people who are succeeding. It's by doing it.
I love what you're saying. I'm a spiritual man. I believe in the word of God. And there's a part of the Bible that says, let the old women teach the young women.
Yes.
That's what the Bible says. Some people are shocked to hear that. Yeah, the Bible, there's a verse in the Bible that says that, let the old women teach the young women. So how can our young ladies, take advantage of our, more mature, experienced and exposed women? There could be this perception from the younger ones, and that creates a divide that, it was their time. Maybe they had the capital, or they had the influence, or they had the exposure. But as for me, I do not have that particular exposure. Your thoughts on that?
I think nowadays children are too comfortable.
Say that again.
The children are very comfortable. They do not have the same view of things as used to be, as used to have. Because for us, when we were growing up, I remember, I would look forward to when I'm going to finish my school. We had kind of a plan. It's like going, with girls in school. We would talk how I'm going to finish school by this time. And by this time, I'm going to get married after I have gotten my first job and all that.
And then life hits you.
And, yes. But, and you find we're more focused than it is. Then, we were given more responsibilities at home than now, when most of the homes, they have got nannies. They have got people working for them. So they are very, go to many homes, the children don't even know how to cook because they're not exposed. They don't do their own laundry. So the things that we grew knowing that these are the basic things that we need to do are no longer there. And then, of course, we have got younger mothers. And the younger mothers, the empowerment that they're giving their children, we have got TikTok coming up, and you find now is like a child and a mother are doing TikTok. They are dancing. The mentorship. So we have to reevaluate what are we teaching our children, even as mothers, and where do we start them? And I think we have a lot that we can do, and even those women who are advanced can be able to do. We can go to school girls and start from there, mentoring them from high school, from primary school.
Yeah.
When we were growing, we knew all our ministers. We knew who is who. As a child.
That's right. That's true.
Yeah. We had civics education. And we kind of like, I think, were patriotic in a way that, but although we didn't know, because, of course, now the population is bigger, we had...
But the knowledge is there.
The knowledge is there. And we only had what was it was VOK, Voice of
VOK.
Kenya, you know, black and white.
Yours truly.
Yours truly. Now it's how do we mentor, are we able to get out of all this noise and be able to mentor our children, especially the girl, and tell them that they are able and it is possible for them to be the next president, for them to be a governor, for them to get into business and be in and also philanthropy, people giving back to the society.
I remember there was a time in the country where we had the very first time in history where we had a woman vying for presidency.
Yes.
Man. All right.
We'll get there.
We will get there.
And we are there, actually.
And we've had women vying for presidency. And I'm looking forward to a time where Kenyans can be able to see that as a positive move.
I'm sure, because we have had, you know, we have had other presidents in other countries and they have been very successful.
All right. I want us to move to yet another aspect of this conversation. Family. You mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to touch on it in a very deep way. Let me start from the perspective of investments. You mentioned it, that women sometimes start businesses. They can start a particular investment, and in the process, their husband picks it up. Sometimes it gets picked up to the point that the woman has no control over that particular business. How can women rise up, take control over their own initiatives and startups, and still maintain their own their own marriage? Because a woman watching us today is saying, you know what, I cannot do it because I'm afraid I might I might lose my husband, or we might have a problem. Is there a wise way, from as a woman, that you can advise your younger ladies watching us, that they can be able to manage that and ensure growth?
I think family dynamics are very different.
Very different, yes.
But there's one thing you see, a man of God, humility.
Did you just call me man of God? Hallelujah. Somebody say amen.
You believe you are Christian.
Yes, I am.
So,
yes.
You know, humility is very important in everything. And if you're humble, and you're not trying to compete among yourselves, and also as a family, know your role, respect it, and even man to respect their roles, and know that, you know, they are there to complement one another. They will be able to work together. Leave arrogance and pride, and nobody wants to go ahead of the other.
That I am more empowered, I know more than you.
No.
Challenging the man.
No, you don't have to challenge the man. You might even be the most educated one. But humble yourself. You must be the one who is bringing more money in the house. Humble yourself and know that you can, even with that money, without your husband, you also can't do much. Because as long as there's no agreement in something, it cannot grow. As long as there's no unity, no, you know, even the Bible says very well that without unity, nothing can be able to be built. But where there is unity, God commands a blessing. So I think I would really advise the young ladies, young couples, to sit down and communicate and try to talk together. What is it that we want to do, regardless of who has got the money? Well, you know, of course, as I said, families are different. But be humble and try to understand and listen to the other partner. And I would believe also that for the men, they should also believe with what their spouses are doing. And as spouses,
important,
keep everything in your home. Don't go out there and shout it out, because there are others who don't usually mean well for you, and therefore the advice that they're going to give you is not necessarily that which will build your marriage.
It will destroy your marriage.
It will destroy your marriage.
And let me get to Sarah. Sarah, I believe you're following the conversation from New Jersey. You give in your thoughts on this. We have societal expectations, we have family dynamics. How can women grow regardless of these two variables?
You know, women can grow, and you know, nowadays and ever, we need to empower women to feel important, to feel that they matter, and we also have to almost always have to fight for a seat on the table. And nowadays we're saying if there's no seat for the women, we have to get our own table and have a seat on our own table. So I think more and more women are more empowered nowadays because they are educated, they're exposed, and they're bringing wealth to the family. But I think for a family to stand, you know, it's a matter of both man and woman to have a stable marriage or a stable relationship and build the wealth together. Like Mary said, it doesn't have to be my money or your money. Whether I buy a land and sell it, it's our money as a family. And as long as there is respect for women, women will not feel challenged, and men shouldn't feel challenged, because when you bring the money home, it's for the family, it's not mine.
Now, still on you, Sarah, you've mentioned the aspect of challenge. How can we fight this perception that when a woman rises, then she is challenging men?
Well, it is a matter of understanding that women may be strong, but even if they are strong, how you perceive that strong feel, it's what makes the difference. So women can be strong, but how you perceive it, how you perceive that strength, that's what matters.
I love that. I love that. Let me come to you on the same. We've always had this conversation of on you, Mary, that boy child versus the girl child. It should not even be the boys versus the girls, or the girl child versus the boy child. Let each one rise on their own. Let each one achieve on their own. Let everybody get equitable resources on their own. How can we fight this mindset that when a woman is rising, then the man feels threatened by her power, status, possession, wealth, knowledge, or influence?
I think the community as a whole should take the responsibility. And when I say the community as a whole, I mean wherever there is leadership, these are the things that should be instilled in the children. You know, this, if it is the teachers in kindergarten, they should know. So that means that the people whom we are educating in the university to be teachers of the kindergarten, wherever they are, or the leaders, should be focused in educating that, letting the children, because when the children are together and you are teaching them that you can do this, and you tell them all equally, there is no one who is lesser than the other one, and a boy and a girl, you have got the same capability. If a boy can be a pilot, even a girl can be a pilot. If a boy can be an engineer, you can be an engineer, and there's nothing that is difficult. So the community has to sensitize the children, and I'm saying the children because that's why you start harnessing this belief in the kids.
All right. And let me come to you, Sarah. Final question. Maybe I want to give you time to have a final word, a parting shot, as we bring this conversation to a close. Your call to action to women watching us today internationally.
You know, if you're a woman out there, my call to action would be, what are you doing to empower others? What are you doing to empower the younger generation that is coming after you? There are many things that we can do to install, to empower the younger generation, help them. The first one is how you carry yourself. How do you feel you yourself as the mother or as an adult or as a leader? Are you embracing yourself and your capabilities? Are you standing up and just standing up for what is right and what is important for the society? What is important? How are you dressing?
All right.
You yourself, how you carry yourself matters. So for any woman that is watching me out there, let's continue to empower the generation that is younger than us, the people who are looking up to us. Let's talk to them and, encourage them, teach them, share the knowledge, just like the Bible says. Respect their choices. If they are younger kids, and they come to you and they're asking for advice, listen to what they have to say first, even before you start giving your opinion. So that's what I would encourage.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to also mention that with Jambolees, we are very happy to support the younger women who have business, older women and all. And we are offering that free advertisement for any business that, that is owned by women.
All right. Thank you so much. That is Sarah Munyeri, all the way from New Jersey. I appreciate your presence. Thank you so much for sticking with us. And Mary.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate your presence and the input you're doing.
Thank you.
That is Mary Muturi, the CEO of Jambolees. And it is on that note that we bring into conclusion our conversation of the day. This has been Women at the Forefront. Kudos to all the women who are making strides out there. My name is Ram Aguko. Keep it KBC for more of our programming. Remember, we are going live to Parliament in a bit. This is Good Morning Kenya. May God bless you. May God bless the work of your hands.